afternoon.
Hey, Jenny.
Everywhere I go, that smell of soap now.
I guess you could put my phone number on it. Or in case of emergency, dial 911.
It's quiet in here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
I'm
a
putting a
library.
note on the front
Media
door
showed up.
for tonight, so, but it says in case of emergency, you go dial my number. They're gonna call me and say, hey, I need to check in. It's not an emergency.
Glad you did that, Steve.
Water out there. Oh, today, right?
Jay, what are they doing in there by your house?
What's that?
What are they doing over there by your house? Like a water main break or something
Oh,
in there?
gosh, yes, they're replacing two 36-inch pipes with two 48-inch pipes that go into a 60-inch pipe. 60-inch pipe.
Stormwater. Yeah, there's some congestion points out there in my understanding where they go to small.
A 60-inch pipe?
You walk across through that. It'll be done on the 20th.
I don't know why nobody can answer a direct question. What are the interest rates today? Yes, I can still do loans. What are you thinking? You didn't answer my question. That wasn't mine.
30-year fixed in the low threes.
An answer where
I get lower than that
he
for
has
me.
to do something he doesn't.
But I'm gonna keep an eye
You
on
could
it.
do a 15 probably lower
He
than that.
gets an answer where
I wanna get under three.
ask
I'll ask.
more information.
Who you working with?
Well, one of my business partners, his wife runs a big mortgage company.
Man, I wanna be sitting on go.
It's so nice on the phone, but I can tell it's
Why
all
would you say
just
perfect?
kind of
You
fake.
said Bill. Oh, Kenny Rogers side? No, when the hold 'em, Australia.
I know, he got overshadowed by Corona.
Australia caught fire. That's how you know 2020 was gonna be.
And I did this weekend.
1 minute.
I think I put their steps correctly.
I don't think a good portion of our community can get to it. Most of the businesses are gonna. I already had 3 people said probably won't be able to open back up if it's better to it.
I think I did the DGT denial.
It's all Trump, right? Put masks on, go back to work.
Y'all ready?
The week with that.
Call this meeting to order. Bruce?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a few updates, what's happening locally and what we heard from the governor today. The governor issued another executive order closing schools until May 15th. He took the maximum number of people allowed to gather. It has dropped from 100 to 50. He's closed gyms, movie theaters, hair, nail salons, and barbershops, and they're all ordered to close effective Wednesday, but he's encouraging them to go ahead and do so. And tomorrow at 2:30, there's going to be a conference call with the governor with all elected officials, and all of the councils has the number to call into to listen to that. We expect some more direction there of what's happening and what's coming down afterwards. Staff continues to practice social distancing, trying to limit our exposure. The police department has locked access to the front door, but still come out if someone knocks on the door, if they call in, and they're working on schedules to prevent or limit exposure and also to keep them staffed in case there is exposure. We've seen in Detroit and a few other police departments, I believe, that were heavily impacted already, so they're doing their best to do that. And we've increased some remote working with staff. We have several people at home working from home, and we will continue to find ways to limit exposure. That's updates what we're doing, and staff is here, department head's here to answer any questions and work with you on anything else you'd like to do.
I'd like to hear from both of the chiefs, just kind of what you're seeing out there. Is there any concerns that you have in last Friday when we last met, we all had huge concerns. I would just like to hear from you kind of what the, what your officers are seeing, or if there's any issues.
Our businesses have been quiet. Of course, if anybody's made any walks, exercising walks around the boardwalk, it's been quiet. So I think that there's like we said, our self-regulation, that people are taking this serious, and they seem to be distancing themselves, turning down the volume on some of their establishments to kind of stay in line with the governor's order. Our call volume has been very low. Sheila, I just forwarded you the weekly update. Our arrests and citations and things of that nature have been low because the public's just been staying at home and just kind of keeping themselves, trying to do that social distancing. I'm pleased so far. I'm optimistic.
Thank you.
We modified our dispatch and response protocols to minimize on medical calls the exposure our staff's getting. So instead of sending a whole engine out, we're going into a squad concept, only send minimal staff. And we have seen an uptick in medical calls just because a lot of people's nervous right now that they have every bit of a worry. Our 911 center is doing a very good job of screening those and only sending the appropriate units that have to go. So we're nothing that's alarming at this point, but we do expect to continue to see a little bit of increase in some of that call volume on the medical side. But our staff, as we put together decon kits and also providing them with all the PPE they need, and the officers in charge know when to have their staff dress out based off the notes and what's going on.
And where do we stand on that, on PPE? We hear so much in the media. Are we in a good place with that type of supplies? I mean,
No, sir. We're not, but we're getting guidance every day on how, like with the N95s, how we can reuse them up to a set number of times, how to decon on things that we're doing. So I was on a conference call at 1 o'clock today discussing that very thing, is the limited amount of PPE that we have on hand, how what can be reused, what can't be reused, and it's very limited to what can be reused if the correct precautions are used. Right now, we're not reusing anything, but there is discussion on how we can, and working with the hospital and the health department on what's the correct procedures for that.
Is there any, I don't know what we would do, but is there anything we could do for you guys to help you in that area? I don't.
No, not at this point. If the call volume stays limited like it is now, we have enough supply to work through the calls. We're like everyone else. If we start seeing a large amount of calls, we're being very cautious to when we wear it. Now we're going to fail to the side of caution, but we're not just working on every call. We're looking for those particular calls that would drive us to take those extra precautions, especially when it comes to the N95 masks. Those are probably the most important piece we have right now. We're holding them tight unless we have to wear them. We start with surgical masks unless it's confirmed. So.
Any more questions? Thanks, Chief. Is there any questions for staff or for Bruce?
Well, I just had a couple. I think just make sure that we are working, we being staff and first responders, on a long-term plan on what that would like if we have to do additional steps. We talked the other day about closing the bridge. We didn't want to do that. We've talked to town attorney, has shared with me some of her concerns and continued with council to share the concerns of the liability of the town. So I would like to make sure that we fully understand that staff understands that. So as we move forward, if we choose to make additional steps, we fully understand and the community understands. We're getting a lot of comments, and I don't want to say pressures, but we're getting a lot of input from folks to do one of two things: close the bridge and or address short-term rentals like many of the beach areas and have done. So I would just ask in the next few days, as we're waiting for the governor's call tomorrow and additional actions that may or may not come, that we have some kind of plan that says, here's how we could do it, here's what it would look like, here's the liabilities, so that we can make an informed decision if we should choose to go that route.
So the past couple of hurricanes we've had, unfortunately, Lynn and I didn't have the ability to be here and see what the process looked like. What I would like to do, because for a hurricane, you're talking about a closure of a bridge between 3-5 days, maybe at the most. And now we're talking about closure that could be weeks.
Weeks.
So it is important that we get in front of this piece early, getting back to what you said, Steve, and have a plan in place.
Yeah, I do, and I think, some of the comments I've heard from people, we have some, well, first of all, we have people on the other end of the island that we need to be in communication with Curie Beach, and I know that you have, Bruce, and I would continue to encourage you as management to be in touch with them, and we need their input and their feedback and hear where their plans are, but also have been approached by people that live in a short distance on the other side of the bridge that frequent our island for grocery shopping, and most importantly, medicine and filling prescriptions. And, an action that we would take, I would not want to jeopardize someone else in close proximity. So I'm trying to understand that fine balance and still listen to our residents that, are getting vocal that they'd like to see us take some action. So I don't think we're there yet, based on our conversation last week and the actions of the governor today and possibly tomorrow, and just see how things plan out. But like Jay said, an extended period of closure is different than we've experienced in the past. This is new territory. So just having a plan if and when we should ever go that well.
Yeah, and Chief, and we've all been talking, I think we'll have a plan ready to go, and we coordinate with others, and we will definitely, before any action, get with Curry Beach and talk with them too, and then I was on the phone with them today, so, and I think they're meeting tonight, so.
And for the public that's listening in, we're not there yet. We do have a plan in place, and we are expected to have a call-in conference with the governor tomorrow at 2:30, correct, Bruce?
That's correct.
So we are waiting to see what his orders are tomorrow before we do that.
So Lynn and I had a conversation earlier today, and Lynn mentioned something interesting about a soft close, and I would love for you to talk about that if you could. It's just an idea.
It's just an idea, but the idea was to close the town except for, the same list of people like what Steve's talking about, but basically exclude outsiders, which would achieve the closing of short-term rentals and all those sorts of things, but not necessarily put barricades up and staff it. But it would give the chief some enforcement. If you see a bunch of college students renting a house, you give some, they're not supposed to be here at that point. So not pushing that necessarily, it was just an idea that Jay and I were talking about, so you might want to think about that. There may be something between where we are now and a full barricaded close.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think we need those in our tool belt, because I agree with Steve. I think it's coming if we don't get
Well,
some sort of action
Well,
from the
I
governor.
think absent some kind of directive from the federal government or the state government or county that says we're supposed to shelter in place, my thought that we had discussed the other day was any kind of closure would allow island residents to come and go to work if they work off the island, and to allow employees to come and go if they work on the island, and allow some means there's a variety of different types of employees on the island. And I would say we could expand that to include our close residents in close proximity if they have business on the island. I mean, if legitimately they're coming to, get some food at one of the grocers or go to one of the pharmacies to get medicine, I don't want to stand in their way. I thought the general idea was to reduce and to some degree restrict, the overwhelming number of people coming here on a basis that.
The non-essential
Right.
kind of people.
So just a question on that, and Bruce, I don't know if you can answer this, but even if there were to be an order to stay in place, so I still don't think that addresses short-term rentals. I have not seen, has other states addressed short-term rentals, or has that been by community?
I have not seen, I know local communities have, but I have not seen it anywhere else. I haven't followed that. But yeah, I don't know if his order would direct that or not, unless he put a
Right.
travel ban of some sort on there with it.
And so that's what we need to be looking for. And so even if that does not happen, we may have to address short-term rentals after tomorrow. Because I know we're looking at a pretty busy weekend coming up, a pretty nice weekend, and we're going to have the same problems last week that we had, this week that we had last week. So I'm thinking, and that would be a good question for our town attorney, will we have to address that separately either way?
All right. I'll talk with about it. And one thing I forgot to mention over the weekend, the county did issue an addition to their state of emergency, which we followed suit, was parks. We're, the closing playgrounds, or we're encouraging if you use a playground, to wipe it down and to make sure it's clean and not to congregate. We've also discouraged any organized practices on our fields. The county's emergency declaration also limits no more than 10 people getting together, and which I think we could help enforce that too, or at least suggest people when we see anything like that, they can break it up and move on. So there was a few other things that happened over the weekend.
I do have concerns right now about the parks and the skate park and the playgrounds. I mean, they were jam-packed this week. They were, and we actually had 2 lacrosse teams on the field that I know we've addressed, but I think when situations like that arise, especially with lacrosse teams, we need to address that, and it's unexcusable that happened.
I believe our Parks and Rec director has
He did.
addressed it with the coaches.
He held
so
it
they
up.
did, yes.
The downside about that is that we had 2 council members that witnessed both of it, and neither one of them who said that they're leaders for us being progressive about this went up and spoke to them.
Yeah, you know why that is, Joe Dan? Because we're a team up here.
No. Okay,
If
all
we're
right.
gonna- if
So
we're
let's
gonna
talk
take
about stuff.
action-
Let's talk about a few.
if we're gonna take
If you're a
action
team
as
and
a-
you're standing there, why would you not walk up and say, "Hey guys, we need to be practicing social distancing"? You take a photo, you send it to people, and you walk away. That's not being a team. That's you taking a photo and saying, "Hey, I'm not saying we need to take action, but here's what's going on." If you're a leader, you should say, "Hey guys, we all know we're a team, we're a community. We need to be social distancing." If you don't walk up and say those things to them, they don't know that, hey, a good friendly reminder of something is going to do something. And then half an hour later, we have another councilman walk up and see the exact same thing and not reiterate this friendly reminder. We, as a team, are failing our community. We, as a team, aren't on our beaches telling people social distancing. You're not riding by people saying these things. So as a leader, you are failing them. He's failing him. She, him, all of us are failing him if we're not doing those things.
So Joe
Right?
Dan, I would think that it would
No,
not be
hold on. I have
council's.
more things to talk about. I don't mean to cut you off, Mayor. I have a lot
Well,
of
you
things.
did, and let me finish.
Well, I didn't
It's
finish
not
my thought
council's
process.
job to police everybody in town, it's the police's job. I'm gonna let you finish, but I
That's-
want the chief I want
that's
you guys
not
to
policing.
understand, we're not the police, they are. So we should make that call to Bruce. Go ahead.
That is BS. If I walk by and I see somebody littering, I'm going to say, "Hey, do me a favor, don't pick that up. There's a trash can right over there." Yeah, publicly policing, yes, that's what we need to be doing. So if I'm out on a soccer field and I see people standing within 6 feet, me personally, maybe not you guys because you're different than I am, I'm going to walk over and say, "Hey, guys, right now with what's going on, do me a favor. Either we need to break this up or we need to do this whole social distancing." And if you're not doing that and you're going to take a photo and walk away, then you failed that community because what you said last week on Fridays, they elected me to do public safety. Okay, 10 feet away, you should say, "Hey guys, really quick, my name's Lynn Barbie. I'm on council. I don't know if you understand what we did this past week, but let's talk about this and let's address these things." You didn't do that. He didn't do that. Jay even said today that he failed because he didn't do that, which means you failed because you didn't do that.
I disagree with you, Joe Dan. You can sit
Okay,
up there
then
and talk
we
for
agree
hours.
to
but
disagree.
I disagree with you.
All right, so then let's talk about numbers because as we talk about the things that we're talking about, there you go, Zian. Get huffy puffy at the end because you did that Friday. Same thing. Every
Okay,
time somebody
let's
talks,
be respectful. Let's be
I'm trying to
respectful.
be.
You just
be
called him
respectful.
Huffy and Puffy, that's not respectful.
Or
Just say
you
what you
just-
gotta say
if
and
you're-
stop
if
pointing
anyone who's
fingers.
anybody's watching this on live stream, if you're watching Steve now, he's going to
Stop pointing fingers, please.
No, I'm going to be who I am. Say what I'm going to be.
Well, tell me when you're finished, because the rest of us
I
have to
will when I
speak
am
too.
done. So things that we're not even talking about numbers. Right now we're still creating this hysteria. What I said Friday, and I know nobody agreed with me, is that yes, we have a ton of visitors, but last week as a whole, we as a community failed our visitors because we never went to those visitors and said, "Hey, if you're on Freeman Park, practice social distancing." We didn't have signs, we didn't do anything. On our beach strand, we didn't do those things. So all of a sudden at the end, Friday, we're like, we're going to close our beaches down. Curry Beach didn't want to close. They even said that we pretty much forced their hand. When what we could have done is, everyone right now, if you are researching this I research this every day. And what our doctors are saying is, well, number one, we're 2 months behind this curve. Our government failed us. Whether you want to believe it or not, our government failed us. We're 2 months behind this curve, so we can't catch up on testing like South Korea or anybody else who's above the curve. Beyond that, what they keep saying is the same thing.
Dan, can I
Practice.
just interrupt you just
Stop
briefly?
cutting me off. You can
I
wait your
just-
turn. You can talk about when I'm done saying what I'm going to
asked
say.
a question.
Okay, gentlemen.
Your
Okay.
question last week wasn't a question. I never asked you what social.
Okay,
what-
we'll finish up and we'll let Lynn speak. Go ahead, Joe Dan.
The experts say the same things. we're behind the curve. Because we're behind the curve, we're not going to catch up on testing. Now we're going to catch up on testing. We know that is going to skyrocket. And we know that 6 to 10% of the people are going to be critical. However, the other 80%, the best thing we could do as communities, what everyone keeps saying, is social distancing. How often are you in a grocery store and you say something to somebody? Or you're out on a bike and you see somebody? Or at a park and you see somebody? If you're not doing the things that we need to be doing as a community, because you should care for one another. We're not doing those things. Our senator, Jeff Jackson, I don't know if you guys got the email from on Saturday. Did anybody?
Yep.
So you saw his numbers, right? His numbers say that, yeah, we know things are going to skyrocket because testing is slowly becoming available. However, it's not in abundance that our president says. Millions. No, those millions that are coming out aren't even complete. But we know that it's going to skyrocket. We know that the cases are going to skyrocket. But everything went from a 6% death rate to now it's 1.3%. It's still astronomically high, but there's a huge difference from saying, hey, 6 to 10% death rate to now 1.3%. New Hanover County has 4 confirmed cases. Brunswick County has 3 confirmed cases. So if you look at our region right now, that's 7. The things that we should be doing, that we're continuing doing, is social distancing, educating our public. The things that everybody wants to currently do, not me included, is we're building this hysteria up. Yes, it's scary as shit. I don't care about, it's so scary that right now we don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 months or the next 18 months because we don't have anything that's going to control it yet from a standpoint of how to cure this thing. However, we know the little things that we could be doing on a daily basis is social distancing. We're not telling our visitors that. We have no signage that anybody that comes over the bridge that says those things. People are going to come over the bridge no matter what because Airbnb, I'm not going to cancel my Airbnb because either I'm A, not going to get a refund, or I'm going to be charged something that says, hey, you're not getting that back.
And
Dan,
another
do you have
thing
a
is we
motion?
want to
I just wanna
do
make sure
is,
you're not driving to something. Are you
No,
just talking, or do you have a motion?
We don't need a motion today. We're not. We
So-
didn't come here for an
Asking where
emotion.
you're heading. That's all I'm asking.
so
We're
gentlemen,
not giving our community the information they need. We're sitting up here and we're telling them the basics, but we're not giving the
so
numbers.
Jodan, what
We're
we're,
not giving the-
what we're
okay.
directing them to is the CDC for the correct
No,
information.
last week
And
you
we
were
need to
directing them us
project,
and telling us then what we're going to do.
you're projecting, what we need to, we're preparing, not panicking, but what I hear is panic here. So.
Last week, is that not all last week? That's all we did was build up our community to this panic. Our county, our state. We have county because last week Steve got really pissed off. I said our county commissioners as a whole did not say this thing. He got pissed off. Said yes, they did. The very next day, Woody White came out and said no, that's not it. We're building this hysteria. And then our governor is saying that hey, we're not in this motion yet to do these
Go
things.
ahead, Lynn.
I was going to say there's 19 people, I think, in this room, which is probably above the limit, but we're equally we're spaced apart. I only hear one hysterical person.
That's because the Friday.
That's all I hear.
Okay. All right, Lynn, because you've cut me off 3 different times now. You didn't let me finish. I've yet to cut
I
you
was
off. or
recognized
disagree with
by
you.
the mayor.
And last week you did it twice. Not only did you do it twice last week, you said, I'm going to answer Jodan's question, and you gave me martial law definition, which I never asked for.
Okay, well, we're here to get an update from our manager, so I'm going to
There-
cut you
look.
off. Stop
And there
right
goes
now.
Steve again, which is what he did
Stop.
last week. Is what
Yes, Joe
everyone
Dan,
else-
I'm tired of hearing your rant about nothing,
Okay.
okay? We
Okay,
all
so then
heard
let's
your
talk
position.
about your rant, the way you,
All right, okay.
the way you BS
Everybody
our,
stop right now.
our
Stop,
residents.
stop.
Let's talk about that. You're going
Bruce, how do you want us to handle it? Joe Dan, stop. Let
No,
us all-
no,
we're
I have
five
exact
people.
right to talk about what I want to talk about.
Well, you've already talked about it, and,
No, we're
and
not.
it, well, I've
we're
had
not giving our
enough.
residents the right information they need.
What? I can't hear you.
What
Bruce.
information do you want to give them, Joe Dan?
I can't hear you.
The
Bruce.
data.
Stop. Everybody
Look at
just
the
stop.
data. We're not telling them, like, hey, just to be honest, yeah.
Y'all are so far off course of what this meeting is supposed to be. Stop.
This meeting was an update on a COV.
And we're not, you're going on and on about
Okay.
numbers and panic. And Bruce, do you have something else for us?
Friday,
How
we
would
didn't give
you
them
like
data
us
on
to,
the states or
Joe
the
Dan,
county.
please
We're not
stop.
doing it today.
Joe
Have we
Dan.
yet to present to our community yet today what the stats look like? No,
Joe Dan,
we're not
please
giving them
stop.
updates.
Bruce, how would you like us
Yeah,
to
realize
proceed
that.
if we're out in the community and we see something like the lacrosse game that's going on? I mean, I don't think, particularly me, I'm not going to go and police a group of young boys playing lacrosse. So how would you prefer us handle something like that, or whether it be somebody crawling over the dunes, which I talked to the chief about that last week? What do you
I
suggest?
think always the appropriate way for anything that's illegal or whatever, or that may be an issue, is to contact the police or contact staff who are in charge of the park or something like that, if possible. And there may be situations where that's not, but I think that usually it's the safest way to do it, because especially in these times, everybody's a little tense, that it may be more appropriate to have a police officer or one of us come discuss, somebody with a uniform or an official.
Well, and I agree with that, because there's quite a few people that are upset and confused right now, and I think a police officer would be the person, or someone maybe with the fire department, someone in uniform to address those issues. Chief, do you have anything you'd like? I see, I can read your face. You'd like to speak.
So real quick, we were notified that there was some people in active team sports, which could be a concern, maybe not, depending on what the activity is. When we had some officers ride by, they were spread out, looked like maybe they were more practicing than engaged in hard play. I spoke with the town manager, and at that point, we're like, well, are we going to keep going out there and examining every call we get? Or are we going to talk to a department head and see if we can't fix it from a holistic sense to maybe quell that? And I think that's probably what was the catalyst for contacting coaches and trying doing it from a softer approach that made some sense, where we didn't have to worry about going out there today or tomorrow the next day. Feel free to call us. That's why we're here. We don't mind going and looking at the situation to see if it needs attention.
But you did, Eric, you spoke with the coach, and he understands that, and he's okay with that. Okay, all right.
So I agree to disagree, because we keep talking about that we're not a textbook town. If you see somebody littering, you do anything, you're going to say something. So if you notice that, not most people know all 5 of us, and we know that. So just to walk up, like, hey, by the way, my name is Jimmy. I'm on council really quick. I know everyone knows how important this is. Please just practice this. We need to take care of each other. Versus walking away to call somebody, then they're gonna be like, I just saw Jimmy walk away to call the cops to come tell me this, but I just saw the guy who I know personally. We're not a textbook town. We're family here. So if you can't just walk up to somebody and say, hey, do me a favor, guys. We need to break this up. We know how important this is and how crazy it could get. If you guys don't mind practicing social distancing, they're going to appreciate that more versus you walking away and calling the cops to go to them. Our community aren't thugs and people with guns are going to turn to you and say, get the hell away, I'm going to shoot at you. No, they're going to say, you know what, you're right, I apologize. The kids were getting a little too close. Let me just re-educate them on this.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for staff?
Crazy.
Bruce?
That's all we had. We weren't looking for action. We just wanted to update you.
Okay.
I have one quick, well, maybe you're going to go
Go
there,
ahead.
Mayor, and I apologize,
Go
but
ahead.
the way things are unfolding, do you have a recommendation of how often this body should meet? Sort of, I think individually, we kind of talked about trying to keep this going. I just wondered if you had a recommendation.
I spoke with our attorney, and probably, we thought maybe, tomorrow after hearing the governor, we probably need to get together in case there's some actions that we need to follow up on. Other than that, thought maybe we could set something for Monday after the weekends, get an update, and then maybe on Friday before the weekend starts, maybe an appropriate time, so we could set some official, and then any time in the between, if something comes up that needs urgent action, which is pretty much the standard to have an emergency meeting, we could call for that.
At any time.
Right, but we need certain notifications, but it's basically the same day if we have to. If
And that
there's-
would be notification to the press?
Yeah, the press, sunshine list,
Okay.
and make sure that all board members have proper notice.
So again, to the public, we're preparing, we're staying involved, we're staying informed. We're asking you to heed the social distance and to check on your neighbors. We'll have some more information, I think, tomorrow after we have the conference call with the governor at 2:30. So if there's nothing else, I'd like to recess this till tomorrow at 4
I have a
o'clock.
non-agenda item to talk about.
What's that?
So I want to address last Friday. So last Friday, we had information. It appeared that at least one resident showed up. This resident sent council an email afterwards, and he specifically addressed Steve, who at the end not only got vulgar with his resident, but also got into his face. So he felt enough that he sent an email to all council. Nobody's responded to the guy. Luckily, I know the guy, so I met with him personally. We kind of chatted out. And the thing is that to a small degree, it kind of was this whole invitation because he used the F words, kind of got really vulgar with it. And the thing is that I've had 3 encounters with Steve in this notion. 3, where Steve now has got in my face on this side of the podium, that side, and threw curse words at me in the chambers, in front of residents, in front of the rest of us. That's, A, it's very aggressive. B, it's not professional. And those are the things that we need to work on, because on a daily basis, the only way that we're going to serve our community the best is if we work great together. So at the end of the meeting, if someone gets up from council, walks down into the public, gets in somebody's face and starts saying shit that doesn't need to be said, that's somebody who's unfit to be on council. That's me personally. No matter what anybody, despite what anybody says, everybody in this room saw that and commented on that. So anybody who does not want to address that resident, that's, to me, that's an issue, because everyone in this room at least said something to me or had somebody else send me something. So if we're not going to talk about that, that's a huge problem, because that's one
Talk about
resident.
what, Joe Dan? Our council members acting professional? Is that what you want to
That
talk
wasn't
about?
professional. You get in the
Because
resident's
I
face
would
and you
implore
start
all of
saying
you
shit.
to use professional, be professional when you're here.
All right, so one of the reasons I ran for council is I've had that done from previous mayors and from previous council. Now I'm on council. I've had it done to me 3 different times on council from a different council member, and I've addressed that. But we have a resident who's reaching out to us and saying, hey,
You mean your
what do
business partner? Is that who you're referring to?
No, I'm a worker for him. He's the business
Your
owner.
employer,
So no,
okay.
it's not a business partnership.
So
You're a
you're
boss.
saying your employer?
You
Okay.
you keep pulling this political, and that's what you did Friday. Friday, you did the same thing. You said, okay, Joe didn't want to do nothing. No, I didn't want to take action that day. The way you word things is not the right way. So really
Okay,
quick,
so-
he reached out to us. Nobody reached out to him and said, hey, we apologize. Our council guy spoke this way and did those things. Nobody said anything to him. No one's addressing it and saying, hey, Steve, that was very unprofessional. You need to apologize. You need to control your behavior, because the things that you're doing aren't great for the residents. You don't get in a resident's face and start saying shit that doesn't need to be said.
Joe Dan?
You say, hey, I apologize that, you know what, right
Joe
now,
Dan, if you're
do
going
stop
there,
cutting me off.
I think
you keep cutting me
and
off.
you
Give me a second to
you
talk.
you've talked the whole meeting. You
Because
owe
I'm
everyone
passionate. We're not
watching
giving you
this
the
and
right
everyone up here an
information, so keep cutting
apology
me
for
off.
your poor behavior.
Because we're not,
If
we're
you
not,
think
we're
that,
not
and don't
giving our
use any more
residents all the
profanity
information
either.
they need to know. We need to
All
give our
right,
residents
I recess
everything
this
about
meeting
this.
till tomorrow at 4 o'clock. All in favor? Aye.
Now, that, okay, so then I will talk by myself. We're not giving our residents the
Help
right,
yourself.
everything that they need to know. They need to know the data from beginning to end, and what's the right, what's wrong. We need under the desk to everything, and to walk away. These are the things that we're having problems with. If we can't be professional about that, it's an issue.